looks like snow, but it's not snow. It's marble. Our courier Frank says that these are the very marble quarries from whence Michelangelo got the marble to carve the statue of David. Very hazy out here. Difficult to see maybe.
You guys. Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Robin.
Architecture on here. I guess that tower was originally made to be a bell tower. So we got some kind of church here or something. Detail there. Such an extensive vocabulary.
You guys go up? Yeah. Yeah, they do.
What? Here they are at the Fleeing Tower Pizza. As you can see, it's really not leaving that much. The Tower Pizza. I just want to show you some of the detailing on the door.
Wait, look at this.
This is all bronze. Cast must be. Beautiful.
Look at these doors, William.
Oh, start.
Look at these. William.
They're leaving the gate. I wish I could 7. The back of us here, and the flag from the Honorable John Snozik.
That's surprising for position. I don't know why. Probably just sweating. Yeah.
Okay, to begin with, this is considered to be a craft on its own within the general thing. Also, there is an example of a dying craft. It's appearing quite rapidly too. The reason why is the usual one. It's beginning to take a little bit too long to make. In other words, this cannot be mass-produced. That's 100% made by hand. Right? Also, another thing about a product like this is that it still contains 3 of the most ancient and traditional aspects of the craft. Number 1, the way it is built. 2, the way it is polished. 3, the way it is decorated with gold. Right? And another thing again about it that makes it a little bit unusual is the fact that even though it's very hard and solid, it hasn't got any wooden or metal framing at all. Right? This is 100% thick solid leather. The hinge is leather as well. Now, I don't know if this means anything to you, but it's obviously an entirely different product, say from this one here, in which case you have a wooden box and all you have to worry about is to cover it with leather. Okay? Back in the 12th century, when the craft originated, they used to use this very same technique to make shields, helmets, corsets and things like that. Leather was in fact originally used for military purposes. Therefore, there is no limits whatsoever to the amount of sizes or shapes you can get, as long as you have a wooden mold made first. And excuse me, exactly the same size and shape that is required, like you see over here. These molds last you 40 to 50 times, then they have to be replaced, involving that way also another craft, the making of the molds. The leather used in this case is very thick and hard, as you see. So it has to be soaked in water first for a couple of days to get it more pliable. Then it's applied all around the mold, and it's 3 pieces to begin with. Bottom, top, and 1 around the 4 sides. They are literally nailed to the mold and taped to it as tight as you can in order to make as much pressure as possible against it. Then it goes into an oven to dry, and when the leather is perfectly dry, as you can see here, we have exactly the shape of the mold. Because, as you all know, leather shrinks and goes hard when dried in excess of heat. Right? So that's the first stage. After that, the tape is removed, so the nails, the leather is trimmed nicely all around the edges, sandpapered, and then another layer is glued, this time on the top of the first one. In fact, there are 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and 3 around here. Even 3 because on the second one is where the indentation is made for the hinge, like you see from this one, see? That's the hinge right there, that's all you need to have. This is still missing the 3rd layer around it, you understand? Okay? After this they're dyed and then shined. Now the shining, as I said before, is still done by hand as well, and the technique used is a very primitive one. Still the original one. In fact, it's still believed to be the neatest way to achieve an everlasting shine without having to seal the pores of the leather. So the reason why we still stick to it is not because we don't know many other ones, but you know, it's still considered to be the best way. It's a very, very easy job, but it would take 20 minutes to half an hour for a box that size. If you're really fast, 15 minutes. It's paraffin wax, and this kind of a tool, that's all you need to have. The tool is heated up on the fire. When it's hot enough, you just have to touch the paraffin with it, which obviously melts and sticks to the tool. And after, it's only a matter of spreading it all over the box by rubbing this iron up and down all over it like that. You understand? Very easy. Doing it for about 15 minutes, as I say, and what happens is that the paraffin at its liquid stage is absorbed by the leather, and then when it dries it goes solid again, actually, you know, like must have happened to everyone to spill some candle wax over a tablecloth, no? See what happens to it? That's exactly, you know, the same in this case. So this coat all over it will not only be superficial, but will be in the leather too. Consequently, we keep it shiny without having to use any creams or polishes or nothing like that at all. In fact, whenever you want to shine it, all you have to do is pick up the cloth and wipe it over it, and the shine comes out again. You understand what I mean? Because basically all you have to do is remove your fingerprints from it, because when you pick it up, it's like if you were touching a glass or a mirror. Okay, after this, the next thing is the gilding. You find gold decorations not on everything, obviously, only on the most traditional products, and you know, things like these, which could be slightly fancier as well. Never too fancy. When you come across a pattern like this one, for example, this is what we call Venetian style, because it's obviously typical of Venice. You will also find that when you come across something like this, they're not made by hand, but they're made by using a machine, otherwise they will cost a little fortune. No? Here in Florence, we still do it like this. All you need to have is 2 things. Tools that look like this, which are made out of brass, and they will got a little design chiseled out on the top. The making of these tools is also a dying craft. There is only one workshop left in town where they do the chiseling. The other thing is gold. This one is 22.8 carats. This is almost pure gold, right? As you can see though, it's applied on a film, which obviously they didn't have back in the old days, okay? In fact, this is quite recent. It was introduced roughly 15 years ago. Before this was introduced, we used to use this so-called gold leaf, which you probably have heard of, which is not disappeared. It's still around, still used, but not too often. There are a couple of main reasons why. Reason number one, for example, is time. It involves quite a long process to use the leaf because it is so light, you can't hold it with your hands, you can't touch it, you know. Reason number two, which is also very important, is wastage. With the leaf, there is a large amount of it. With this, you don't waste any because whatever you don't use remains attached to the film, making it then, you know, a lot easier to save and then remelt and recover away most of the gold. So there is hardly any wastage at all. You understand? So the idea is melting this gold in the leather with these tools. So the tools are heated up on the fire, there is a gas burner in there, and when they reach the right temperature, pressed on the gold, so that the gold melts and gets encrusted in the leather in different shapes and forms. By combining different tools, you can get all kinds of compositions. Even when you come across a very fancy and elaborate design, it is never one large tool only, because the larger the tool is, the harder it is to get an even pressure all around it, right? So it's always a combination of movements. This here, it's only plain water, cold water. The reason for that is to check the temperature of the tools, which is extremely important too, because if they get too hot, you risk burning the whole thing, and if they're not hot enough, obviously nothing happens, the gold won't melt. The idea is, in fact, in knowing how to balance temperature and pressure, which varies slightly depending on the type of leather that you're working on. Anyway, I'll show you now a quick design, something fast and simple to give you a better idea about how the job is done. Melts away from the film into here, right? Now once the gold is melted in the leather, will not rub off all that easily, because it doesn't just stick to the surface, but it melts into the grain. To remove that, you will have to literally stretch it off with a fine point like this. There is in fact not much point in doing that either, because even if you scratch the gold off, the indentation left by the tool will still be very noticeable, right? So it's one of those jobs. Once it's there, it stays where it is. Now, extremely accurate job. This is the hardest bit, really, because you have to be extremely careful. It's very, very easy to damage it and throw it away. Because you have to cut through the two top layers, filling with the knife when you reach the bottom one, without going through that. You understand what I mean? You have to know exactly when to stop. If you go through the lot, then you don't get this nice overlap, which is what makes it close perfectly. So at last you can open it. So the mold is removed only with the use of a corkscrew. You pull it out and start another one. So I hope you can see a difference now between a product like this and a product like that. Naturally, purpose-wise, they're identical. Both of them are jewelry boxes, right? But I don't think you can always look at things that way. I mean, that's only my opinion, obviously. But otherwise, the moment you put your jewelry into a shoe box, that becomes a jewelry box too. Right? You find sometimes they have a little bit of a velvet lining too. In fact, you know, these are specifically for jewelry. Like this one here, for example. It's exactly the same thing, made in exactly the same way. When you take the mold out, you put the lining in. Okay? So I'll leave this here. If anybody wants to have a closer inspection, you can pass them around. And you find they are a little bit damaged, but they should still be good enough to check how they're built.